What's up, rebels? Have you got a rabbit that has crusty ears? Me too! Have they been shaking their heads? Maybe itching a lot? They've got sensitive ears? They're a little pissy? This is one of the most common problems that you're gonna see in your rabbits. But it is manageable, treatable, and preventable. But the goal is to stop the spread, treat quickly, and avoid long-term pain or a secondary infection. Today, we're talking about ear mites. What are ear mites? Well, these nasty little parasites are monsters that live in the ear canals of your rabbits. They have approximately a 3-week cycle from egg to larva to a nymph and then adult, and then they lay eggs again. They like to feed on the skin oils. It causes inflammation, it also causes pain, and then it also causes crust. Crunchies that you see in your ears. This is what you're going to be looking for when you inspect your rabbits, is these crunchy, nasty stuff. Mites lay eggs constantly, and this can be extremely uncomfortable for your rabbits. Although it's highly contagious for your rabbits, it's not for people, but it is pretty easy to cure. It can look like dust, dry skin, a little bit of ear twitching, and many of your does may not even show aggression until it progresses. Then they become little buttheads. How does this happen, you ask? Well, let me enlighten you. The most common sources of ear mites are going to be when you bring new rabbits in. It can also come from them sharing bowls and feeders, and it can also come from their bedding or their hay. Some other things that are going to encourage infestations are colonies or tractors, and kids can get it from their mothers. Now, I know that it might be like one of those situations where you're like, my herd is closed. I don't bring any newbies in, so how am I still getting an infestation from a closed herd? Well, I've got answers for you. Even with a closed herd, rabbits can still carry low-level infestations. I'm sorry, but that's the truth. You may not see any visible irritation, crust, scratching, or dandruff. Like, just nothing. It just sits there and it waits. Remember how I said they are constantly laying eggs? They reproduce slowly until they get stressed. And usually that's because of a lot of different factors. They can just be generally stressed for various reasons, or it can happen when they're molting, when the weather changes. Mites really like cool, damp weather, so especially this time of year when it's starting to cool down and you get those like late season rains and stuff, it can get nasty real fast. I actually had issues with a blow up in infestations recently because of said weather. But some other reasons that are going to increase their stress is if they don't have a lot of airflow, their immune system is compromised, obviously. If they're pregnant or lactating, or even if they just have a bunch of like earwax buildup. All those are factors that are going to cause your rabbits to get a flare up, even if it was just some quiet laying beneath the surface kind of infestation that you didn't even know about. Stress is the #1 trigger for ear mites. Flare-ups can even cause because they are fighting or moving cages. If you just recently put one in a tractor, even nesting, cold snaps, poorly hydrated, recovering from giving birth, even if you somehow screw up their feed intake or if they're overcrowded in a tractor or colony or whatever. In just a few weeks, you can have a serious infestation on your hands. And unfortunately, mites are going to survive in the environment. Of course, it's gonna be like everywhere, on your bedding, on your hay. They're going to be getting it from wood, cages, brushes, feed scoops, animals, wild and domestic, even bugs and dust. They can survive up to 21 days on some surfaces. And this all begs the question, when you see it, what are you gonna do about it? Step 1, check everyone. You don't wanna miss a beat here because, as we said, this stuff is contagious, okay? If it has big ears, a tail, it hops, and it chews grass, check it for ear mites. So like the #1 way that I'm going to treat them once I find out that they have these nasties in their ears is I'm going to get a 1% ivermectin. And you can get this at the feed store. It's pretty common. The 1% ivermectin, it may say that it's for cows or pigs or something like that. You can still use it. 1% ivermectin, the injectable version. You could do it orally, or you could put it in the back of their neck. On the back of their neck. Not in it. You could. So you're going to want to get a needle with this little vial. You're going to stick the needle inside the vial and you're going to pull out however much you need. Now, the dosing is going to depend on your rabbit and it goes by how much they weigh. I raise TAMUK meat rabbits, so they weigh on average about 10 pounds and I'm going to use about 0.2 to 0.4 milliliters per rabbit. I think that's about a drop per 0.1 milliliter. I could be wrong, but there should be like a little on the side of your syringe. So you can literally count 1, 2, or 1, 2, 3, 4. Or go in the middle, 1, 2, 3. Depending on how severe the rabbit's ear infection is going to be, you're going to go from 0.2 to 0.4. 0.4 being like, ew, there's nasty crunchies in her ear. And 0.2 being like, I don't see anything, but everybody else has crunchy munchies. That's how you're gonna dose it. Even though you can go orally, I prefer the back of the neck, and I'm gonna explain both of them so that you get what I'm talking about. One thing I really want you to know is that you should not add ivermectin into water, because it does not mix together well and you can either underdose or overdose them. No way now. Don't try to pre-mix it in the syringe either. But if you want to do it orally, you're going to use a syringe that does not have a needle on the end of it, but maybe like that little, you know what I'm saying? It's like one of those Baker Beaks things. I don't know. It looks like this. It looks like this, and then it just squirts out. You're going to use about the same dosage, and it's going to go into their bloodstream through their stomach, which, yes, their stomach is a mucosal membrane, but it is made to handle things like this. So it is not quite like inside the ear, which is super sensitive. Do not dose your rabbits inside their ears. It's super thin skin, and it's going to be painful for them. If you dose inside their ears, their skin is like super thin, like paper thin, maybe thinner than paper. They're going to absorb all the chemicals inside the ivermectin like super fast, and there's no fat tissue or thicker layers of skin to kind of like buffer that, and it's going to go directly into their bloodstream because there's lots of blood vessels and their nerve endings are very, very dense in that area. If they try to scratch at it, they could tear the skin inside their ear, and it's painful, and it's also very sensitive. All right, so we're not going to burn the inside of our rabbit's ears off by putting ivermectin in it. Instead, you can put it on the back of their neck. Same dosage, back of the neck, and that's what we're going for. That skin is super thick, has a fat layer underneath it, and it's not going to hurt them. They also have extra keratin and a protective oil layer on their skin. So their skin is going to be able to absorb it safely and slowly, which is also important. And they're also not going to have as much nerve sensitivity right there. So you're good. This is my preferred method. Now, the funny thing is that you're probably thinking, well, if you put it on your skin and it's absorbing slowly, then how is it even getting into them and doing anything? Because ears are up here. The ivermectin is going to kill them systematically. Once it absorbs through the skin, it goes directly into the bloodstream and then it does its thing. And then when the mites go and they try to start chomping on all that funk that's coming out of their skin in the ear canal, they end up ingesting the stuff and then they and bye-bye. You've basically just made a lymph goop and skin oil cocktail that murders mites. Goals have been achieved. Congratulations. Now, after you do this, do it again at 7 days, and then do it again at 14 days, because you want to kill that egg cycle, because these nasty little monsters, they're going to stick around. If they're not hatched, then they can't eat the medicine, and then they don't die. And that's the goal, is to kill them off. So, yeah. Next thing you're going to want to do is sanitize everything. Bleach kills lots of stuff, but so does a torch. You can burn that shit. You're going to need to clean every cage, clean all the feeders, all the waterers, hay racks, everything, tractors. You're also gonna wanna change out the bedding if you have some kind of bedding in there, like in your nest boxes. And you're also gonna wanna swap out the hay if they've been munching down some hay, dragging it all over the place like mine do. If you have a really bad infestation and the crunchies are like really bad, you may want to clean their ears out. And you're gonna wanna do this super careful because you could got some more issues if you don't. So there was a light issue, and now we're here. I'm gonna get comfortable. If they have really bad crusties in their ears, you're gonna wanna clean that out if you can. And there's a special way that you're gonna wanna do that, because if you don't be careful, you could really hurt them. Ear mites can cause some really intense pain and itching for your rabbits. Think about getting bit by a mosquito in your ear ball. And that's kind of what it's like, only their pain doesn't come and go, it's constant. Making all these crunchies is disgusting. The ear crust is actually a mixture of dirt, poop, eggs, dead skin, oil, all that stuff. All that is just kind of like clumped together to make this thing that's kind of similar to the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. Meanwhile, you want to be super careful because you don't want to cause any bleeding or any further damage to their ear. I have TAMUK rabbits, and they're well known for having very large ears, so I don't want to screw their ears up. They have to use that stuff to flap off the heat in the summertime. The first step is you're going to want to warm up a little bit of oil. Get it nice and warm. Not hot, warm. Step number 2 is you put that gently into their ear. If it's warm enough to drip, just drip it in. Let it sit for about 10 to 15 minutes. And then when you remove the mother crunches, only take what's going to easily come up. Don't try to force it, because that's where you're gonna have issues. Plus that rabbit ain't gonna be tolerating it either. Do not dig deep into their ear canal. Don't treat it like it needs a Q-tip. Just don't do it. If you can't get to it, just let it fall out naturally. A lot of times they'll just shake it out anyway. And if the crunchies are really, really bad, just check them every day or so and then pull out what you can. Once they're healed and looking normal again, you win. Just treat them every 7 to 14 days. The key to remember is that it is gross and disgusting and maybe slightly embarrassing if it's your first time, but it happens to pretty much every breeder, even the best. You haven't failed your rabbits, you're learning how to care for them. And this doesn't ruin your herd. They're going to bounce back after treatment. Don't be scared to inspect them, because I guarantee you they're going to be a lot happier once you fix the problem. And you are doing the right thing just by being here and learning about it. So give yourself a pat on the back and a break. And maybe a Snickers. And some fake coffee. Now, for the future, you want to prevent infestations. How you do that is, number 1, treat incoming rabbits. Pretend they're all afflicted with the plague. Everyone. Do not share nesting boxes between does without cleaning them. Don't even switch them between cages without cleaning them. I like to torch everything. I just give it to Martin. He really likes to burn stuff. Sires need to be checked monthly. Why? Because the boys are always hopping on all the other bunnies. Duh. So if they have ear mites, he gives it to Janice, Janet, Jamie, and Jenny. And then all their babies get it. And then all their neighbors get it. You see how this goes? Keep everything dry and clean. That includes the wire on your cages, especially if you have that like welded wire. It can just sit in little cracks and then jump on your rabbits. Make sure there's good airflow, because who wants to sit in a mucky, musky, nasty, right? You gotta blow them away. I do know that there is a monthly medication that you can give them during the season where they're just like hella nasty. It's called Revolution. And I know none of you do this, but make sure that your hay is not on the ground. Store the hay not on the ground, Martin.
Forgot to mention, if you're curious about raising rabbits, visit Rebel Off Grid, and if you feel so inclined, buy me a cup of tea.